in the books, and today we'll be breaking down the winners and losers of the draft from the NFC North. If you agree or disagree with our takes, comment down below and put in the live chat as well. We are live for the first time with an episode. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe to never miss an episode.
Got to play it twice. That's
Yeah.
funny. Oh man, it's good to be here. It's good that we finally are able to get together and talk about the past weeks because it's actually super exciting as to what's happened. And Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, just been super busy. Obviously, now we have to do a live episode just with scheduling issues. And yeah, I've been doing pretty good. How about yourself?
It's crazy to say, man. I'm gonna be back home in a week for the summer, wrapping up here, finals and studying. So it's been a busy couple of weeks, but pushing through as always, and happy to be here, man.
Yeah, so let's get into it because every fan base right now thinks their team drafted well, but that just isn't the case. We will grade and talk about each NFC North draft and see who came with a boom or a bust. All right, so do we want to start off with your Green Bay Packers?
Man, let's do it. So obviously they didn't have a first round pick. They had pick number 52, and honestly, there was a lot of talks of what position they could go. They could have gone cornerback, which I thought was the obvious answer, defensive tackle, or wide receiver even. I've heard wide receiver, which was going to be crazy because there were some good names on the board still. Um, they did go cornerback, and they did select Brandon Cisse, and I do like him. He's a 20-year-old younger guy, going to be 21 in July, I believe. And yeah, this kid is fast, aggressive, kind of like a Jair Alexander replica. His footwork's good. He's speedy, and personally, I like the pick at 52. You address a need that they need right away. And this is a guy who can come in and potentially he can compete for a starting job. They do have Keyshawn Nixon and Carrington Valentine, but those guys, I mean, Keyshawn Nixon might be solidified, but Carrington Valentine, they signed Benjamin St-Juste in the offseason in free agency. They're going to be competing for starting spots. This kid's an outside corner, which is what we need, and I'm excited for him to be here. And later on, they went defensive tackle, which I love this pick as a Packer. They got Chris McClellan out of Missouri. He's a big defensive tackle, nose tackle kind of guy, Kenny Clark style, which I really like. Big guy, gets in the backfield. Um, yeah, and Jonathan Gannon's here, so they're actually shifting from a 3-4 to a 4-3, which is interesting. I'm excited to see how that works with Parsons and Van Ness coming off the edge. Obviously, they drafted denied St. Dennis in the third round as well, who's another edge rusher who can play. So I'm actually super excited to see what Gannon does with this defense. And, the Packers obviously drafted people for him to be able to work with the defensive players. So, and actually, have a competitive defense. So you gave him the players that he needed. And yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah, and kind of to piggyback off of that, we have been talking for a couple weeks now. What are the Packers going to do? Now, we were thinking offense and defense, but they really solidified that defense. Now, I want to kind of give them a grade here, and especially not for having a first round draft pick and what they did with the remainder of the draft. I'll give them a B.
Okay, that's respectable. I think without having a first round draft pick, I do think they knocked this. I mean, I don't want to say they knocked it out of the park. I think that later in the draft, but we're not really counting those rounds right now. I think for the first 2 to 3 rounds for the Packers, Definitely low A, B plus. I think they did phenomenal. I mean, obviously we don't know because these guys haven't touched the NFL field yet,
Right.
but just by looking at it, I think they did really well.
Yeah. And let's go on to the Chicago Bears, where they got Dylan Thieneman. He's an explosive safety. He's very fast downhill. And he's a guy that knows the Midwest football scene as a guy that went to Purdue before he went to Oregon. So there is obviously that backing. And then they got Logan Jones, a center out of Iowa. Now, we were talking prior to stream that we believe that this is a reach. And I can definitely agree with that because they built up their offensive line, as we talked about in a previous episode. And to go out and get a center with this pick, especially, it was definitely a reach.
I think I'm pulling it up right here. I think Logan Jones, I'm trying to find the Bears' exact second round pick at the moment because if I recall, Logan Jones, I think, was projected to go in like the 80s. Let me double check right now to see where the Bears got him at 57.
Yeah, he was projected like 80s or 90s.
See, what I do understand though about this is Bradbury's under a 2-year contract. That's not long at all. And this guy's a good center. He didn't allow a pressure or sack in 2025. And locking him up for the future, because let's say Bradbury does go down with an injury, or even after next year, the Bears want to move on from Bradbury. They can do that now. They do have their future center. So I'm not too mad and critical of the pick as the way other people might see it. I do think that overall, the Bears have a good draft, though. I think the Thieneman pick was, really good. I'm jealous of that pick, which we'll get into a later team that should have probably taken him. But yeah, the Bears really knocked the draft out of the park. I think they're a low A, I'd say. Maybe the Logan Jones is the only criticism in the later rounds. There's another pick too, but other than that, I think they did really well.
Yeah, and then to kind of throw in there as well, Sam Roosh, the tight end out of Stanford. The issue I have with this, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on it, is you already have a young tight end in Colston Loveland.
Yeah.
And getting another tight end in this draft, it kind of reminds me of what Vegas did with Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
Where really Brock Bowers took over 90% of the load. And they also do have Cole Kmet. Now, with this draft, it brings up the question, what is Cole Kmet's future in Chicago looking like? Now, I feel like this draft pick brings it down for me. So you said low A, high B. I'll go a B minus. Just because I don't understand the Logan Jones pick at this current stage. And the Sam Roosh pick as well. I don't understand that one either. So that's why I'm going to bring it down a little bit. That first pick of Thieneman was really good. And like you mentioned, we'll talk later on a team that should have picked him up. But the other two draft picks within their first 3 rounds that they had draft picks, it's very questionable.
I don't understand the Sam Roosh pick as well. At the moment, as you said, we do have Cole Kmet and Loveland, which is obvious, and now we don't know Kmet's future.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Roosh at Stanford, I mean, he's a big guy. I mean, he's like he can take on defensive linemen, edges, he can block. I think that's why the Bears liked him, and he had I forgot the numbers exactly, but yards after the catch kind of tight end. And he's a big guy. I mean, he can get up in the air. I mean, it just brings up questions.
He reminds me a little bit about Sam Laporta, kind of like that bigger tight end that can block and also get yards after catch. He reminds me of Sam Laporta, so I can understand Ben Johnson kind of looking for that sort of tight end because Colston Loveland is not that blocking tight end. Neither really is Cole Kmet.
Yeah, I wonder what Ben Johnson's going to do with personnel because you're bringing in three tight ends. This guy can play. He can rotate snaps. I don't know exactly how they'll fit him in. If he does play maybe this year, maybe he doesn't. We'll see what happens with Kmet because if Kmet's stat line falls off this year, he could be out the door.
Right. Yeah, and what other aspect do we think that they're going to use this third tight end? I was even thinking maybe they might throw him in like a fullback position.
Yeah, just thinking that.
So, like being that lead blocker for a running back, which could be pretty dangerous, especially with their offensive line as well. So that should be really interesting. But let's move on to my Detroit Lions. And with their first pick, they picked up Blake Miller, who kind of solidified now with Penei Sewell going to left tackle. I know it was officially announced that Penei Sewell was moving to left tackle. And this is a definite day one starter. And we even talked about it. They needed to address this tackle position, and they did that. Now, are there other tackles that I wish we would have gotten? Yes. But I do feel like Blake Miller really solidifies that offensive line. Now we have a young core offensive line with, I think, the oldest two being Cade Mays and Penei Sewell. So that being the oldest guys on our offensive line, that's impressive. And he's a guy that is quick on his feet, and he's big for sure. He definitely reminds me of another Penei Sewell. So having essentially two Penei Sewells, one on each side, is pretty dangerous in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought the Blake Miller pick was, I mean, they were going to go offensive tackle in the first round regardless. It was just a matter of who. Do you like Blake Miller, or would you rather have had, I'm blanking on the other offensive tackle, Caden Proctor?
So I knew Caden Proctor was not going to be available, so I'm okay with not having him. But Freeman was the other guy that I was like, I kind of wish we had him. But just looking at the college film between the two, Blake Miller was definitely the better pick. He definitely fits that Dan Campbell sort of player, like that hard-nosed grit, going to put like his face through your mouth, essentially. He's just going to run right through you. So he definitely reminds me of like a Penei Sewell, like I said. So it definitely fits that. And Freeman was kind of more of a slower tackle.
I wrote in here, as you can see my notes. I was going to say, is Blake Miller going to be a day one starter?
Yes. To my knowledge, yes. He's going to be a day one starter. So. The only other person that I would think is I forget who they signed, but it was someone that they signed.
Is there someone competing for that right tackle spot?
Yeah.
Okay. But most likely Miller's playing.
Most likely Blake Miller will be playing.
Yeah. Okay.
And then in the second round, now as a Michigan State fan, I didn't like that they went back-to-back Michigan. But seeing the pick of Derek Moore coming in, the defensive end, to pair up with Hutchinson, went to Michigan as well, carried the national championship trophy at the draft in Detroit. And this guy, he definitely reminds me of a Micah Parsons-esque player because he's a guy that is quick off the ball. He has great hands and can just run right through people. Aiden Hutchinson, definitely faster, but definitely reminds me of like a Micah Parsons-esque type player. And he's another guy that can kind of slide into that outside linebacker spot as well if need be. So I definitely feel like this pick, he's definitely a Dan Campbell sort of guy. He fits the culture of the Detroit Lions that, like I said with Blake Miller, that hard-nosed grit, going to run right through you sort of player. And he definitely is a good pick in my opinion. So I'm not going to be biased here. I'm just going to base this off of the first 3 picks that the Lions made. I don't really have too much on their third pick, but their first 3 picks, I'll give the Lions a B plus because they kind of similar to the Packers, they addressed those positions that they needed to address. And in my opinion, they got the best available at that time.
Yeah, no, I'm a big component for best player available for sure. And I think Derek Moore is a great fit for them, especially what they needed. And he's going to be playing. I think there's a way that he's going to be in the rotation some way. Yeah, I agree. I think the Lions addressed what they needed. I give them a B plus as well. I think they did well. And yeah, I mean, it's Dan Campbell kind of players and culture. I mean, I think that's important. So we'll see how they pan out for your Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and then last and definitely least, because we're going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings and how they 100% flopped on this draft.
Okay. Before we even get to the draft pick, Harrison Smith, legend, great safety, been with the Vikings his whole career. Dude's on the edge of retirement. You as a GM, just want to get your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you draft best player available, or do you draft based around that player who's not going to give you an answer yet?
Are we in turn talking about best player available for the safety position?
Yeah, I mean, even I think there were other positional players they could have gotten besides, I'll just say Caleb Banks, but I mean, defensive line position. But do you base your draft off of a guy who's uncertain about his status?
So first round, I would have gone best player available. Later rounds, I would have gone maybe second, third round. I would have gone with the fact that you don't know what Harrison Smith's going to be doing. So first round, I would have gone for best player available, which in my opinion was Dylan Thieneman.
For that safety spot, yeah.
And I mean, definitely there were those linebackers, defensive tackle, or like defensive tackles, defensive edge, wide receivers. There were those positional players in those skill positions, especially running backs now that Aaron Jones is getting up there in age. So there's definitely a certain aspect that I would have done if I were the GM of the Minnesota Vikings. And if I ever were the GM for the Minnesota Vikings, you might as well just strike me dead at that point. Because
also, what do you think about the Jonathan Grenard trade during the draft?
I don't like it.
Why is that?
I just don't think they got the value out of it.
So they obviously the Eagles signed him for a 4-year, I think it was like $100 million.
Yeah.
And they got Dominic Orange out of it, who's, in my opinion, was on the Packers board, 3rd round pick. They're not a team that's even close to competing.
Right.
Grenard was one of their best edge rushers.
Yeah, like I said, they definitely didn't get the value out of it, because if you're going to make a trade, it's to better your team. And they did not do that.
So I guess now we can talk about Caleb Banks. Thoughts?
Let's just say if you watched our live stream, we were both pretty surprised because there were some names that started falling, and I was like, what in the world's going on here? And don't get me wrong, Caleb Banks is a good player. I don't feel like he fits what Minnesota is trying to build for the future. He is a guy that they're building the defensive line, but he's one of those players that's high risk, high reward. His floor is very low and his ceiling is very high. You don't know what you're going to get out of Caleb Banks. You might have a stretch where he's the best defensive lineman out there, and then you might have that stretch where he can't even move an offensive lineman 2 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Vikings, it's a first round draft pick. That's why I can't move past it. But they kind of saved themselves later in the draft with, I like the Jack Alday pick and Dominic Orange. I just don't understand the first round draft pick.
Yeah. I mean, definitely that Jake Goldman pick, and definitely getting someone that was on the radar of the Packers. And I think he was also on the radar for the Lions, that in Orange. And who knows how these guys are going to pan out. But if I'm going to be honest and not joking, actually, no, screw that. I'm going to completely roast the Vikings. I'm giving them a C- to a D+. Actually, I'll give them a D+, because you don't know how these players are going to pan out, and you got probably the worst available player in the first round.
I'm going to give them a C. I think, like I said, the later rounds. The later round saved them. The later round saved them. But
if the later rounds didn't save them, I would have given them an F.
But also, yes, they traded away Grenard. Yes, Banks is up and down. Who knows what he's going to turn out to be?
Right.
I'm not too upset because at least the Vikings are picking a direction and going with it. I mean, I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see this year because they're just all over the place with great coaches. They just don't have a quarterback to really direct that team.
They don't have a quarterback, and they sure as hell don't have the best edge rusher that they can have available.
Yeah. Oh, man. It was an exciting draft, though, I will say.
Yeah. But, Michael, I want to bring something up.
What's going on?
So we have been seeing a lot of new people watching recently.
That is true.
So if you're new here and you're enjoying this kind of content, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss any future episodes.
We appreciate all the support as always.
All right. We got to ask the audience here. Currently, within the draft, if there was a player you wanted on your team and that they didn't draft, who would it be and why? And I'll pose that question to you as well, Mike.
I think, well, I think the Giants took Colton Hood from Tennessee, cornerback. I liked him. And I think, I don't remember exactly what spot the Giants took him at, but if he did fall, I think a few spots down to 52, I would like the Packers to take him. I'm not mad with Brandon Cisse, but man, Colton Hood just looks like a really press man corner, even though the Packers don't really play man. I think he's just a dog.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned mine, Caden Proctor. Just probably best tackle available at really in the entire draft. And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, he's another guy that fits that Detroit style football. And he was in my mock draft for a while. Didn't realize he was going to get picked that early, but once he got picked, I was like, okay, we got Blake Miller or Freeman, one of the two. But I will say Caden Proctor, that would be probably my pick in the first round, just with what we needed as an offense, because those skill players like Amon-Ra St. Brown and JMO and Jameer Gibbs and now Isaiah Pacheco can only take you so far if you don't have a good offensive line. So I would have said Caden Proctor, but I'm happy with the pick of Blake Miller.
Absolutely. This is so off topic, but I just realized this. What do you think about the Terrell brothers playing together in Atlanta?
That is insane.
It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I saw the video when the second one got the call from Atlanta, and
Yeah.
he just goes up for a high five and just
There was another one too. I think the Jets drafted somebody like the later rounds, third or fourth round, and his dad had played for the Jets, which is like, it's kind of cool. Like those moments, like that's, I mean, the history. I mean, it's kind of just very. I mean, I don't know. The draft is just something else. Brings so many emotions.
yeah. So I don't know if it was this year or previous year, but someone got drafted by Dallas, and his dad works for the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, that's cool.
And is in the draft room. And he's the one that actually makes the call and says, "How would you like to be a Dallas Cowboy?" And
dude, I would be overwhelmed, bro, with emotion if that was holy.
yeah. And what's even more cool is like kind of off the topic a little bit, but the Tigers, Jahmai Jones, his dad played for the Lions.
Oh, that's really cool.
So it's like all set in stone. And then obviously Raiola, one of the top quarterbacks probably in this next class, his dad was the center for the Lions from like 2006 to 2010 and was the center for Stafford.
Raiola to the Lions confirmed right here.
No. Maybe as a second string right now, kind of learn under Jared Goff, but because I mean, we don't really know what's going to be happening next year with Teddy Bridgewater. Who knows?
Teddy Bridgewater.
Who knows? He has 2 stints with the Lions at this point.
Quick question, since former Lion, do you think Stafford retires in 2 years?
Yeah. I was very surprised about the Ty Simpson pick, and it didn't seem like McVay was too happy about that pick.
Yeah, no, that was interesting, but they think he's him.
Yeah, like Ty Simpson was like, let's go make history, and Sean McVay is like, yeah, no. And I was
Chill
like,
out, buddy.
whoa.
We're not done. We're not done.
But it's like, yeah, he definitely surprised me. But I think Stafford retires in the next 2 years, maybe 3 years. And it'd be interesting to see. He's definitely Hall of Fame for sure. I'm interested to see if his statue in Canton has Lions or Rams. Definitely will be surprising to see.
Yeah, will be.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in to this live episode. The support recently has been absolutely insane. The views, the comments, and we do notice it. We want to keep building with you guys, so make sure you're dropping your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear which team you think starts hot and which one falls short. And next week, we're going to be deep diving into what team going into training camp can we see having the best record in the preseason, and who will be those playoff teams for the NFC North. So yeah, make sure, as always, you guys subscribe and so you never miss an upload from us, an episode. And as always, thank you guys for listening to the Gridiron Podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.